things you find on secondhand boats. This is the forestay, and that's put in there with just a mild steel cotter key that has just about rusted out, and it also it's too small. It's very small. So I'm replacing this. You can see that when this was put in with the Sta-Lok or whatever brand that is, they didn't get the winding back quite right. But I need to replace this anyway because the other end of it's bad. But just happened to notice that. So, like I say, you just never know what you're going to find. I want to show you here why I'm going to change the forestay on this boat here on this Compact 23, or at least the forestay. This is the bottom of the forestay. You see how they've got like a pelican hook there with a little locking ring on it, and then a double shackle to get the length right, and then the turnbuckle up above that. And while it does work, I just don't feel particularly comfortable with that, so I'm going to replace it. And then on the other end, up at the top of it, there's a Sta-Lok fitting. At least I think that's what brand that is. It's a Sta-Lok. But you can see, if you look real carefully here, that the windings are a little less than perfect there. The strands are kind of opened up there. So I'm going to just replace it all. I'm going to probably reuse this, although I think you're supposed to replace the cone inside it, so I'll probably have to order some of those replacement cones, those tapered cones that go inside there. They're not very expensive. They're only like $4 or $5 a piece. And this part here and here is reusable. And then also they had the wrong size pin at the top. They had a pin that was too small for that hole, which causes undue wear when the pin doesn't fit. I'm just cutting forestay that I had that's just a little bit longer than I need, that's in good condition. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to just mark it where I need to cut it. Just putting some masking tape around it so I can put a mark on it. And I've got the other end lined up, the pin centers lined up just by putting a couple of screwdrivers in the ground to hold them in place. I've got them pulled tight here, and I can mark that right there where to cut it. So now I know where to cut it. And I've got to get this apart here. And I've never taken one of these things apart that's already been put together. They're supposed to be reusable. Okay, one thing here that I just noticed, there's the cone has a split in it where it can squeeze together, and you're not supposed to let any of the strands of stainless wire get into that groove as you compress it. And this one, without a doubt, does have a wire straight down the center of that groove. Now, it's a lot easier said than done to keeping it out of that, but you do have to be very careful not to let it go in that groove. And this one has one that was pushed straight in the groove, which keeps that cone from compressing against that inner core wire or wires. So it never would have reached its maximum strength because that wire right there was directly down that groove, that split, which is where it's not supposed to be. So even though that was holding, it was not, certainly would not have been to its maximum strength, because the cone couldn't compress and close that gap up against that center wire core like it's designed to do. So I'm going to get some vice grips and clamp onto here, and then see if I can twist that to get it to break loose from that adhesive. So I just put some vice grips on the cable there. See if I can get that right there to break loose. Yeah, that did it. It was just that adhesive caulking holding it. So that part's reusable. That part's reusable. That little part there, which I taped down so we won't lose it, is reusable. The cone, technically you're supposed to replace the cone. And not reuse the cone, because of it once it's been compressed, you know, and all. But this one here never got properly compressed because there was a wire in that groove. So I don't know what I got actually, but I'm sure I'll order new ones. I've got 3 of them to replace. Okay, so you can see there the cone, and it's tapered, and how it fits that inner core. I think that's like 7 wires or something there. And that's got adhesive all over it too, so he definitely did put sealant on it. And these actually have a groove cut in on that the wires lay into, but you're just not supposed to let one lay straight in that right there. And there was one straight in that little split. So I'll just get my grinder cutter out and just clip all that off right there so I can save that part right there, and then I'll just order some new cones. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off to length. Not the best thing in the world to cut it with, but it's what I got. I put some tape on it so it won't unravel on me. Okay, so that is the correct overall length. Okay, so I cut my cable, and I put that threaded piece on first, and then I opened that up and put the new wedge. I just bought a 5-pack of the little wedges. They're not terribly expensive, and you can see there kind of what it looks like there. And it's got that little slot in it where it can compress. It goes in, and that fits down on that center piece like that, and goes down in there, and you let it stick out about 1/8 of an inch, and then you retwist the strands back as you pull this part up, and then this is a little forming piece here that forms that shape there, and it drops down in there like that. And you basically dry fit this thing. I've already crimped it with, you put your wrenches on it and you tighten it down to form the ends. And so the ends are the ends are formed now around, and you've got to make sure that none of the strands falls in that that little split in that wedge right there, because if one of the strands falls into that, it keeps that from compressing, so you don't get the strength out of it. And that's the whenever I took it apart from where the previous owner had done this, one of the strands was straight inside of that little split in that wedge, and so it completely messed up the whole the forming at the end there, and it was holding, but it couldn't have been holding as much strength as it was supposed to. Anyway, I've already put it together and formed it. Now I've taken it back apart. I'm going to put red thread locker on the threads here, and that'll also act as like a anti-galling on the stainless steel to stainless steel. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of this is life caulk. I'm going to put life caulk down inside of here, and then whenever I screw it together this time, it'll be permanent. So the life caulk will squeeze down in between all of the strands of wire and squeeze down in there, and then the thread lock will hold it together so it won't vibrate and come loose. This one is a really pretty small one. This was this ended up being 5/32 wire, or 4mm. And I will tell you, when you try to put this over the wire, and when you try to put this wedge over that center core, you pretty much have to take a flat file and file away any burrs on the ends of the wires in that core and kind of round it off a little bit to be able to get everything back together, because it's a really tight fit. They do go, but you have to deburr it real good to get them to go. So anyway, don't mess with these very often. So and you don't need to fill that up. It'll end up squeezing out anyway. I actually probably just put a little bit more in there than I really needed to, but it came out quick. And then when you tighten this up, you may be able to already see it. The life caulk caulking is already starting to squeeze out through the cables at the bottom, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. And as you tighten it up, it's just going to squeeze that adhesive out, and it'll fill in all the little voids in between the wires and all that and seal them up. And I don't think you're supposed to really like crazily tighten these things up. Just good and snug. And so now I've just got to clean everything up. And you can see there that I got good squeeze out with the life caulk. And I just got to clean up all my excess here, and that keeps any water from penetrating that that fitting there, because there's no voids in there for water to collect in, so it should completely seal it up. These things are a little bit fiddly or finicky to do, but they're not hard to do. But it is a little bit of a effort to just to make sure everything is aligned properly, and which is why you want to dry fit it and then take it back apart to make sure the wires form properly. And if they didn't, you know, you can redo it and you know, realign it or whatever. If that one of the wires happened to go down that little groove, you know, it gives you an opportunity to fix anything like that. And then once it's formed, it stays that way. So then you can take it apart and, like I just did, and then put it back together, and with the adhesive and with the Loctite. So there you go.